the 13th of June, there was an experts panel seminar organized by the UNESCO Session in Learning, in which I was involved. And in this panel, a group of 14 people, professionals and academics from different Spanish educational institutions, discussed around the situation and the future of e-learning, of open social learning in Spain. The product of this panel is a paper that collects the contributions and the discussions that took place during this day. And the purpose of my presentation is to summarize the main points of that document. But before going through the presentation, I'd like to clarify that it's not an exhaustive report about the reality, the situation of open social learning in Spain, but it's more an open text to stimulate reflection and debate around this domain. The purpose was to debate around the scope and the meaning of open social learning. It was also intended to describe the kind of experiences and projects that are being developed in Spain in this field, to identify the technological tools and the technological trends in open social learning, and to analyze the opportunities and limitations or obstacles for the implementation of open social learning in the higher education system. Finally, the aim was to produce this document, this paper, that could be used as a framework for further collaboration. We find, for instance, projects analyzing or that analyze different uses of technological tools in diverse contexts, non-educational contexts, in order to explore their potential in terms of what can be their application in specific educational practices. There are also projects around the meaning of being digitally competent from the open social learning perspective, and also projects that study how can open social learning be helpful to develop this digital competence. Other lines are distributed learning, learning communities, and non-institutionalized learning. Citizen creative participation through technology, leadership and change management in educational organization. The paper collects some experiences of this kind, but it is not a representative sample of the projects that are being developed at this moment in Spain. But it is rather a set of examples of the kind of projects that could be recognized as open social learning. But we wondered whether all these different projects and experiences could have, well, all these projects and experiences, apparently so different, could have some elements in common. And we identified some of those common features. All these experiences, for instance, share the lack of standards, have an open architecture and a decentralized structure, and not only from the technological perspective, but also from their philosophical, conceptual, and functional dimensions. Concerning the role of technology in open social learning, more than providing examples and describing specific tools that could be considered in the open social learning scene, the document reflects on the main trends and challenges around the technological dimension of open social learning, and also on its influence on the general e-learning landscape. In this sense, the debate around the crisis of LMS as dominant platforms is settled. The paper also identifies some weak points of open social learning technology when considering its possibilities of use in formal education settings. Especially its open and distributed nature introduces some problems related with the tracing and the assessment of the learning activity. In this sense, it is stressed the interest of new developments and of mechanisms and applications for aggregation of data coming from different sources, information update, intelligent search, etc. The document discusses the perspective of open social learning in the higher education, the Spanish higher education system, and the possibilities for implementation and adoption of open social learning practices in this context. It focuses on the one hand on limitations or obstacles, and on the other hand, it presents the opportunities or the benefits that open social learning could bring to our universities. Among the limitations, the document points out the fact that the use of internet in teaching and learning processes is not yet generalized in most of our universities, partly or mainly because there is still mistrust towards the network. Institutions show little reflection about the pedagogical models behind the use and the design of technology on a large scale. And the implementation of open social learning practices demands this kind of reflection. It could also be said that open social learning does not allow mechanisms of control, and in this sense collides with the general philosophy and operating systems in Spanish, or most of the Spanish universities. Again, problems to follow up and to assess students' distributed and expanded learning activity are also mentioned. On the other hand, some of the mentioned opportunities or characteristics that could be seen as advantages are possibilities for the personalization and self-management of the learning process, opportunities to increase students and teachers' social reputation and projection inside and also outside the university, through this construction of digital identities, possibilities for building learning communities, virtual learning communities and communities of practice, the collective validation of content that till a certain point could help to ensure the use of more contextualized and useful learning materials, the development of new tools and strategies for assessing individual and group learning activity that could lead to a change in the assessment approach, turning it into a more holistic and transversal one. And the last one, the sustainability of social networks and learning environments built by their own students beyond their studies. That means once their studies are finished, with the implications that this could have within a lifelong learning perspective. And well, as a conclusion, I would like to point out two big ideas that can be drawn up from the paper. OSL has the power to foster innovation in the Spanish university system, but in doing so, or precisely because of this, it challenges the traditional role of our university in our society as the main owner of knowledge. However, the higher education system shouldn't perceive the influence and the impact of open social learning as a threat, but as an opportunity to evolve and to fit the requirements and the needs of the knowledge society.
It's an experience that we launched through the Facebook platform and with an open methodology. And what we did, it was with one of our courses that we could translate to English, something like Journeys 2.0, Traveling 2.0, something like that. We used this platform and we used an open methodology. The approach of the presentation, we are going to try to do it in a very practical way, in a very realistic way. And we would like to focus also on the limitations and the difficulties that we have faced during the course. I mean, I don't mean that the course didn't work or something like that. In fact, most of the participants that we had are very happy with the course, but we consider that it will be interesting if we have this approach of also pointing out the limitations. So concerning the structure, we will start with the motivation, so why we decided to launch something like this, how the idea was born and how it grew up, what happened during the 5 weeks of duration of the course, some evaluation we have done, but we only had 3 weeks to do it, so what we have are like preliminary results, some conclusions, and some questions that we would like to share with the audience. We wanted to test an open learning model, and here when we talk about open, we are meaning 3 different things. We are meaning open from the point of view of the access of the people who can access to the course. So for us, we decided that all the internet community, anyone that had joined Facebook could be one of our students, so not only the UOC students. Also based on the use of open resources, not only our open resources in the Open Courseware Initiative, but using the internet as a global repository and any Web 2.0 tool that you can find in the internet. And also from the point of view of methodology, we consider that an open methodology should be something that considers participation and collaboration as the main way, in a peer-to-peer environment, as the main way for the construction of knowledge.
We began with a clear idea. The idea was to do something open, completely something open related to learning, but after that we have so many questions to answer. But these answers were important for the designing of the course. We highlight here some of the most important questions that were what environment to use, what subject will be interesting or attractive for users, what is the methodology, and last, how to organize it. About the subject, we make also important decisions. We decided that we wanted to use contents made by the Open University of Catalonia. Based on that, we wanted content made under the license of Creative Commons, concretely the A license of Creative Commons, that is the openest license. So users would be able to customize this content. Under this license, there were a lot of contents. What we choose this one, Journey or Traveling 2.0, because we found it interesting for so many people who have never traveled or who is not interested in this topic. Also, the ending on 2.0 or 2.0 we think is very actual and is interesting for a lot of internet users. And it was just after holidays. It was another reason to select this topic. About the methodology, there were so many questions from this big one. But first of all, we established an aim, an objective, what we wanted to attain with this course. And the objective was that we wanted a learning community able to self-manage their learning process. This teacher, we put teacher, but it's not a teacher, we call it non-teacher in this non-course, was more an expert. He was not the controller of all the activity, but he was the dynamizer. He contributes to people participate, and also he began some forums or some lines of conversation with some open questions and with his expertise. Also, we thought for participate was important to have a central activity. It was to develop or to construct a blog about a journey the users have done or a blog that they were planning to do. And as we will see, this was a very good idea because that engaged a lot the users that were enrolled in this course. To attract people to this course, we use some functionalities of the Facebook, like invitation, and also the virtual system of work, that is to put the new in the first page of the campus, and also some contact with the media. About the enrollment, the way in which people show he's interesting or her interesting in the course was to complete a questionnaire, and all the people that demonstrate that they were interesting were accepted in this course. There were no filter. And about the certification, just say that as we have talked about in these sessions, learning was the objective, but we sent also an email certifying that people have participated in this course. Also, we sent a gift by Facebook. Now we've seen very briefly the design of the course. Let's go see what really happened. The first thing that we want you to know is that we identify 4 phases in the construction of this community. The first one was the presentation, or the disconcert or sentently phase, or we talk about I feel lost, but because we found that a lot of users introduced themselves, but also they questioned about what they had to do in this environment, because everything was so open. So the non-teacher had to send a message explaining what was the dynamic or the methodology of the course. We have it, the example of the email or the contribution that the non-teacher sent, explaining that the responsible of learning was the users themselves. About the phase of assimilation, just say that was when users understood what they had to do, so they began to work. That's the production phase. Just show you the photos that the teacher and also the students create to develop the participation in this non-course of Facebook. And finally, the last phase was about the results. That's when users sent the product, that was the blog, that I haven't said, but it was individual or groupal. And that was the moment we closed the course.
We have Spanish and Catalan edition. As you can see, for example, in Spanish, 52 users joined and only 14 participated, whilst in Catalan, 37 joined and 13 participated. This means that only around 30% of the people finally participated in the course, so finally created this blog and actively participated in the groups. Later, we will see what happened. Also, we developed a users evaluation. We sent the students a questionnaire, a Google Docs questionnaire, with 25 items regarding some indicators like the role of the teacher, participation, interaction, the Facebook as a platform. And they also provide us with very, very interesting data. And we also developed an ethnographic evaluation in order to get more qualitative data about the course. Concerning the users evaluation, well, we had like 25 items. We don't have, obviously, time to talk about all of them. What we have here, in fact, are Likert scales. We have the Spanish and the Catalan edition. So in this Likert scale, 0 means that they don't agree with the statement, whilst 5 means that they completely agree. So, for example, we asked them, what's the degree of freedom of this methodology? Did this degree of freedom improve your participation? Most of them say yes. Most of they feel very engaged with the experience. This is the second item that you can see in the screen. And also they felt that this role of facilitator, so a person assuming from the beginning the role of facilitator from the beginning, although in the end the facilitator should also be the student, this role was very important for the course. In fact, evaluations from part of the students has been very, very good. Only 20, in total, like between 20 and 25 students participated in the course, so the evaluation that we are presenting now are from the students that participated. We also asked them about self-assessing their participation. Here we have a small difference between Spanish and Catalan. In Catalan, they valued their participation as intermediate, whilst in Spanish it was higher. We don't really know why, but there's a difference. Also in the number of posts. The Spanish edition, we have like probably double than in the Catalan version. And we also asked them about the global evaluation of the non-course, and well, they are quite satisfied. some opinions that they gave us in the questionnaire, because this questionnaire that we sent also had some kind of open questions. Most of them say it's a funny way of learning. Also, like 100% of them say that 5 weeks were not enough time to develop an experience like this, where they expect also to work in a peer-to-peer environment and to facilitate learning as the facilitator, as the non-teacher was doing. They missed a lot of email notifications because we developed the course through a group in Facebook, but the group doesn't email you. So if you want to know what's happening in the course, you have to go inside the group. You don't have the opportunity to know what's happening only by checking your email. Some of them also consider that it's an interesting tool to attract young people. Many of them told us, well, not many, but probably half of them told us that they didn't like the fact that these 70% of the students that had joined were not participating in the course. They didn't like this, what we call the free hypothesis, meaning that probably these 70% of the students just joined because it was for free. There was no responsibility, and since there was no certification at the end of the course, well, it's very easy just to join a course in Facebook, no? And finally, some of them told us that at the beginning, they didn't feel very sure with themselves about if they were assimilating the content, especially at the beginning. We also analyzed these people who didn't participate. We sent them a message and we asked them, what are the causes of your non-participation? We received like 30 replies, more or less. Most of them told us that they didn't have time, that first of all they thought that they would have, but finally they couldn't join. Some of them also told us that they were a bit lost within this Facebook structure because they didn't really understand how the group of Facebook was working in terms of structure. Some of them also told us that they were expecting something more traditional from the point of view of the methodology. They were expecting a teacher that was transmitting more content, but they were not expecting to participate as much as we were expecting. And finally, some of them didn't know when the course was starting. The activity of the facilitator very importantly conditioned the activity of the learners. We were expecting, of course, there was a very considerable amount of social learning in the forums, but it depended a lot of specific forums, and it depended a lot of particular students that engage these forums. But we were expecting that most of the students would adopt this role of facilitator easily, but it didn't happen. But in our case, the structure of the activity was still quite facilitator-centered, and based on our analysis, this happened because 5 weeks is not enough time. Because this stage for the students to adapt the role of facilitators, to adapt a new methodology, it needed like 3 weeks, more or less. So we lost most of the course in this first stage of assimilation of the methodology. Facebook, it has a very rigid structure. In several terms, you cannot really customize it very much, especially if you compare it with other social networking tools like ELGG or Ning. It's not so customizable, although you can customize some things. Obviously, you can use their APIs, but the core of the application is not open source. And you cannot control the application. And we had a bad experience in the middle of the course, and is that Facebook decided to change something in the group, something in the structure of the groups. And we just realized the day after, and the students started to ask, why did this change? No, we didn't change it. Facebook decided to change it. So we don't have a strong control on the application, and we see this as a limitation, no?